Hello and good evening. Welcome to another Young Kings podcast, the podcast where we look at pertinent issues in society, pertinent issues that are relevant in society for raising young kings, predominantly our young men, but women too. It's good for everybody. It's something that is beneficial to everybody, but it's particularly targeting our young males, our young kings. Linked to predominantly the youth violence, a lot of the youth violence that we have at the moment, which is mainly young men in a, shaming and honouring dichotomy that exists within society. A symbiotic relationship between shame and honour, which is killing predominantly our young black men, but it is spreading nationally across the UK. And is affecting people of all colours and creeds, but the dominant group is young black men. And so we deal with pertinent issues. Anyway, let me get straight to it. This one is in regards to two videos that I saw on YouTube. One was of Dr. Umar Johnson, who was on The Breakfast Club, an American radio channel that I think we're all in the UK pretty much familiar with, The Breakfast Club with Charlemagne the God and DJ Envy. And Dr. Umar was on there. He's been a guest there many times. And what he was saying was that we say that hip hop is a blessing to the black community. We say that hip hop is a blessing to the black community. But then when we really look at it, he was saying, how can you say that hip hop is a blessing to the black community when hip hop dollars don't go into the black community to enrich the black community? It's very rare that hip hop dollars go back in to enrich the black community. And I think that was quite a poignant and quite a pertinent point that he made there, quite a powerful point that he made. I mean, it's a blessing to the black community in that it has got so many people out of the ghetto, predominantly black males in poor socio-economic circumstances. And it's got them out, got the gifted out of the ghetto, who might otherwise have ended up dead or falling victim to ghetto circumstances. And so it is a blessing, the amount of millionaires, black impoverished millionaires, the transformation that's happened through hip hop. So yes, that is a blessing to the black community. And I think that there have been, small efforts made, by rappers, food parcels and certain things, one-off gestures and things. So in that way, there's been little efforts. But I think what Dr. Umar Johnson is pointing to is dollars that are going to make structural change within society. And I think that Nipsey Hussle, the rapper Nipsey Hussle, was one of the rappers who was actually trying to do that. I think he was actually trying to create, I think there was a learning center that he was trying to create within the ghetto that was going to train black kids and gifted kids into the sciences, into technology, that was going to be a hub for them within the ghetto, that was going to allow them to learn about science and technology and to grow, to be able to study and to prosper within technology and within the sciences. And he was trying, and that was a structural change. He was investing his money to structurally change the socio-economic dimensions of the hood through that initiative. And he threw a lot of money at that. And a lot of the conspiracy theories put it to the fact that they felt that was why he was murdered. Because it was as soon as he started that initiative and was posturing himself in that way, that soon after that he was unfortunately murdered. And that was structural change. And there have been other rappers that have done things, but Dr. Umar was pointing to the point that it doesn't happen on a mass scale. And the reason that doesn't happen on a mass scale is because of society and the way that it has been set up. And so the way that society has been set up is within the honouring and shaming dichotomy. I'll say it again. the honouring and shaming dichotomy that is the dominant thread that runs through a capitalist patriarchal society. And what I mean about the honouring and shaming dichotomy is simply this, that where there is a socio-economic system, a capitalist system, where there is a great gap between wealth and impoverishment, there is a chasm that divides the two, there has to be an honouring and there has to be shaming, because it is in proximity to. So what you're saying is that when you have the contradistinction of rich and poor, it's not necessarily poverty in and of itself that creates the problem, if all are equal, because you're not looking really at somebody who's looking down at you or who thinks lesser of you. If we're all the same, if we're all in the same boat, the problem arises when you have that chasm, when you have that distinction, when you have that demarcation, where you have that dichotomy that is put in your face. Because what you're saying is that, okay, I'm lesser in relation to you. You are driving a Rolls-Royce Cullinan and I am in something considered far less superior. So therefore, I'm looked at as lesser by society. And that's what creates the honouring and shaming. The person who's in the Rolls-Royce is honoured and is respected and honoured by society as adhering to the very special qualities that have allowed that individual to get there. And the person who is being shamed in the much lesser vehicle or socio-economic circumstances, in being shamed in proximity to that person who has these special qualities. And the suggestion by the ruling classes is that you are lesser because you have not managed to put yourself, so therefore you're thinking in the wrong way, you're behaving in the wrong way, you're really lesser and you contain the lesser qualities than the person beyond you. And that's the honouring and shaming dichotomy. And that's what runs through society, through capitalist society. Okay? That situation. And so that is what creates the problem. And hip hop is born out of that dichotomy. That is the whole process. If you look at the dominant messages within hip hop, it is about shaming people, boasting. It is about boasting. Okay? It's about boasting about what you have and why you are honourable, why you are superior, why you are supreme, while you scoff and mock at your impoverished brothers in the hood who haven't got anything. Okay? That's what's going on. It is an honouring and shaming system within hip hop that embraces that, powerfully embraces that. And that's the negativity that exists. And it's followed through because when you make it in the hood, you know, you want your 50 grand chain, 150k Jesus piece, you know, diamond encrusted. You need your Rolex or your Patek Philippe or whatever it is with your diamonds, and you need to show that you are honoured, that you are an honourable individual who has made it to the top of society, who is respected and who is now part of the old boys club, that is part of the club of the elite club system, the honouring, the part of the honoured. And you poke fun at those below you in order to make yourself feel better about yourself. So it's a very individualist, antagonistic situation going on in hip hop, and it's a trap. Because if one was thinking clearly, and if one didn't need to prove to one's oppressors that one was honourable in any particular way, then you would be using your money to invest it in what is going to lift up the whole community. Nas, in one of his songs, says, "We don't want a loan from the bank. We want the bank. We want the bank. We don't want a big bag to go in the bank. We want the bank." The bank signifies structural change. Okay? That is ownership of the bank. That's what we want. And let's take that a bit further. We want the bank. The bank is geopolitical borders. It means you have economic control. Okay? It means that you are on your way to creating geopolitical borders. That is one's own nation or environment of which one has control over it. That is autonomy. That is sovereignty. That's the ultimate. That's the ultimate goal. That's what you're wanting. Not a Louis Vuitton handbag. Not, these little tokens of wealth that allow you to get a nod from your oppressor or from an oppressive social regime. That's not where it's at. But we're so brainwashed as black people. We're so in need of love and of being considered of value by those who oppress us and those who are ultimately against us, that we are in this system where we continue the oppression of our brothers and our sisters. No other race really does that, okay? No one's doing that. The amount of houses, posh houses that I've seen, and out the front, there's just a little dusty car out there of no real value. Cars are a depreciating asset, apart from very special collectibles. Cars are a depreciating asset, just like money is, okay? Because it's up and down in inflation and loses its value over time. Money and cars, paper money, okay, that's a depreciating asset. So the rich people aren't bothered by it. They're bothered about structural change, making sure that their grandchildren's have the wealth that they've got, that's passed down to the grandchildren's grandchildren, so that everything is organized, so that control of one's environment is maintained across time, so that you're not in a position where you can be enslaved and controlled. That's the ultimate thing. And we've been hoodwinked with this materialist mentality because we've been, we are the offspring of slavery. Okay, we are the sons and daughters of slavery. We have been caught up in this honouring and shaming dichotomy mentally, which has enslaved us into a situation where we're continuing the oppression, we're creating the circumstances which our sons and our daughters and our grandchildren are going to continue to be oppressed. Because the money's going to run out. You're buying clothes. Those clothes run out. They've got no value at all. At all. And so the money, what Dr. Umar's saying is that ultimately, okay, hip-hop is not a blessing because we're spreading messages of violence. Okay? We're spreading messages where it's cool to murder your brother, where you're stunting on your brother, you're shining, you've got diamonds and your brother doesn't have that. You're more and your brother's lesser because you have this and he doesn't have that. You're boasting, you're showing off and feeling good that you're better than your own brothers and sisters. It doesn't make sense. And that's creating violence because when one is shamed and feels void of love, one needs to demand and command that respect and that demand for love and respect. And that predominantly comes through violence, especially for black males. You need to show that you have the qualities in order to be honoured, revered, and loved. It's a simple situation. And that is the dichotomy between honouring and shaming. And it's a powerful dichotomy. And that is the root of violence. That is the thread that runs through this society, this honouring and shaming. And that's what creates violence. That's the underpin of violence within, and particularly black on black violence, because we have an extra level of shame. We have been enslaved. There is a racial dimension to the shaming of black people that goes beyond class shame, of being impoverished. To be impoverished and black is far worse than being impoverished and white, because at least being white, you are part of a racial club that is honoured within society to a higher level than an impoverished person who is black. So I understand where the thirst and where the energy and where the passion comes from in order to demand and command the respect of being honoured within society. But in a way, it's at the expense of getting out of that situation and not having to answer to anybody, to not be shamed ever again because you've got your own geopolitical borders and you control your own destiny and your own fate. To be in control is the ultimate. What would you rather do? Rent a house or own a house? What would you rather do? Be a customer of a bank or own the bank? Ownership. And the highest level of ownership is a nation state of sovereignty, where you have ultimate control and the respect of other nations to allow you to function in a way that is beneficial to your nation. That's the ultimate. But you want to play these silly games and not even put certain things like Nipsey Hussle was doing into the ghetto to get us to the level where we can start to prosper as a community, as a collective. Individuals are weak, okay? You can be picked off. You can be picked off rather easily, okay? The collective's where it's at. And that's what Nas is talking about when he says we don't want the bag to put in the bank. We want the bank. And that's the mentality. And so all of this stuff, in hip hop about, all of this negative stuff, that's not where it's at, okay? That's not where it's at. The ideology and the way of thinking that wants to get us to a point where there is a collective geopolitical border where values, cultural values and everything is there and we are finally safe, secure, and not at risk of being enslaved by others as black people is the ultimate goal. That is forward thinking. That's different from talking about whatever new cars coming out, what new diamonds are out there and what new watches are out there. Okay? Because all you're doing in that way is trying to find new ways to bow down to your master. That's what you're doing. Okay? It's not just comfort. It's not just making sure that you can eat food. That I can understand. No, it isn't. It goes beyond that. You're trying to bow to your master for recognition. That's your Patek Philippe. That's what you're doing. That's your Mercedes. That's what you're doing. That's your champagne. Right, if you like the taste of it, fair enough, but it goes beyond all of that. And you're bowing to your master. And while you're bowing to your master, you're never going to be a master of yourself. Okay? Master yourself, know yourself, and do what is good for yourself and for others. Why don't we have our own ownership? Ownership's the ultimate. So why don't we invest in things where we can create ownership so that one can create and be secure for decades to come so that grandchildren are safe, everybody's good. And we can stop this killing and this murdering and bow into our masters and be masters of ourselves. Love one another. Genuine love that isn't dependent on the trophies of Eurocentric wealth. These people don't love you. You're playing their game, and while you're playing that game, you are not a threat, so they will support you and love you and, congratulate you and pat you on the back. But when you start to do things like Nipsey Hussle, things that really mean something, that put this system, the Eurocentric system, at risk, okay, then it gets real. Because people don't want that. They want to keep you hooked on Eurocentric dependency of trophies and wealth. The minute you try and step outside of that bubble and try to create your own thing, you create your own ownership and create structural change, that's bravery. That's being a gangster in real terms. That's being the man to create that structural change. Nipsey was the man. That's being on stuff. That is thinking new. Okay, thinking new isn't just finding the next Eurocentric brand before your brother does so that you can stunt on it. Oh, I found batons, or what's going to be the next baton, or Louboutin. I'm stunting, I'm shining on my brother. That's not where it's at. Finding the next Eurocentric trinket, okay, of materialism, the next trinket, okay, of white supremacy isn't forward thinking, isn't being on stuff. Yeah, I'm rocking these. I'm rocking, the new Jordan with the, just what? So you can stunt on your brother and create the cycle of black on black oppression over again. Let's think new. Let's think beyond. Let's think. You've got money. Use it. I'm not saying don't have a nice crib, don't have a nice house and, a couple of nice cars, but invest smartly as well. Have the comfort. If you've wanted the Lamborghini all your life and you've got money, drive it for a couple summers and then donate that to charity. Experience it. But don't be stupid. Think. Because black people seem to be the only people who fall folly to this bullshit and this nonsense. And that's why Dr. Umar's saying that hip hop is not a blessing to the black community because it's almost a curse in the way that we behave to one another. And it's poisonous. We're pushing poisonous narratives and poison to our own community. It's like selling crack or cocaine to your own community. The words and the whole negative ideology that we push with the gun toting and the this and the that. Okay, you're talking about your reality, cool. But when you're pushing poison and telling, you're wetting and it's ratings for stabbing and shooting and doing all of this stuff, you're pushing McDonald's on your community. You're pushing unhealthy food. And I heard someone say that. And I can't remember what the name of the rapper is, but it's like McDonald's. McDonald's is always going to be pushed. Society's always going to push what's negative, and they're going to do that also to the black community. Yes, you're going to get signed if you're talking about drugs, guns, and I don't see a lot of conscious rappers getting signed. And that's because there's business in the negativity getting pushed. Just like it's pushed. Okay? Sounds beautiful, sounds nice, looks nice, falls back on our sensibilities of what it is to be a man and fits into these nice little cubby holes that have been created for our oppressor. So it feels nice. It feels like you're on stuff, that you're doing stuff. Yeah, I'm rapping about this. I'm a real one. I'm busting my gun. It sounds all good. Fits into the thing. The world recognizes you but the world recognizes you for it because it doesn't want you out of that mold. Once you start to get out of that mold, you start thinking, okay, my brother's not my oppressor. I don't need to stunt on him. That's my brother. Who is the actual oppressor? And once you start to think in those terms and then start to want to build your own situation and you start thinking differently outside the box, that's what they don't want. It's a chess game. Okay? They're giving you pieces. You think you're taking those pieces when you get signed, talking about that nonsense. They gave you that piece. Yo. They gave you that piece. They gave you those pieces, your car, your house, that mentality. They signed you. They gave you that pawn, that bishop. They gave you that rook. You think you took that rook, that bishop, you took the queen? They put that there for you so that you could take the queen, what you perceive as the queen, so you could take what you thought was the bishop, the rook. Yo, you thought you took that. They gave that to you. You're within that game. Your opponent is invisible and exists in your own brain, in what you think is you being on stuff. That's your opponent talking to you. You are your opponent, and that's why it's invisible, because it's coming from your own brain. You think you're on stuff. It's negative. You're not on stuff. Okay? You're comfortable, but we're not moving forward as a unit. That's not where it's at. And the opponent has got you just where he wants you. Eating cake, fat, in your nice house, spending money on nonsense, while everybody remains oppressed and nothing changes. So that's what's going on, pushing that narrative. And to be on something new, let's get something new. Let's have our own stuff. We don't want the bag that goes into the bank. We want the bank. Have a good night.